play in our offensive category is the power sweep, as we call it. Actual number of that play is 49, and the reciprocal of that is 28. 49, 28. It's the power sweep. Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
Hey, welcome back to Packers Playbook. I am Dusty Eva. With me, as always, is John Kuhn. John, little short week. We got a couple days to celebrate the Saints win before going back into whatever it was that happened on Thursday night. How are you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing okay. And isn't it something, Dusty? It's all about timing when it comes to sports. You celebrate a win, but you only get to celebrate it for 3 days. You celebrate this loss. We gotta wallow in this one for a hard 11 days. But over the last few days, all anybody's been asking is, what's wrong with the run game? What's wrong with the run game? What's wrong with the run game? Well, let's take a look and see if we can explain some of the things that are going on.
Let's do it, man. Yeah, so we usually do about 3 plays. We're doing 5 because we're just doing run plays, figuring we'll run through this pretty quick. So let's get to it. A lot of pistol in this game. I mean, they've been doing that all season. So we've got our first one here. We're going to run through on the wide, then get into it from the backside. Here's what we've kind of talked about. So late in the first quarter, 12 personnel, 1st and 10. Pistol, single back, got this little cutback from A.J. Dillon. Has a nice little gap, but gets bottled up pretty quickly. John, what are we seeing here, man?
So we got some weak side split flow action here, and the Packers run it pretty well. This is not a bad play. Detroit's running this. Pretty good defense as well. But as you let this thing play out, and go ahead and press play here, Dusty. As you watch this thing unfold, you got Josiah coming here from the strong or from the weak side. He's going to go over here to the strong side defensive end. Now look at this. Watch this kick out right here, because this is key. I've been noticing as we face other teams on and on and on, their reluctancy to take on that block and more spilling of that attempt right there. The Packers right here do a good job of getting push. Right here you have a Zach Tom, Luke Musgrave combination that just does not get off their double team up to the second level, or this thing's out the gate. A lot of time in the run game, it's one guy, and that can let the whole thing come to disaster. In this case, it takes a really big play away and turns it into about a 3-yard gain.
Yeah, it makes me sad, John, because looking at this, this was one of the better run plays of the day. But for a theme, and we only had, I think, a total of 11 runs if you discount one of them for penalty. The theme of that very small sample size is like no one was getting up to the second level on any of this stuff all day. The Lions front kind of handled that stuff. So this is a good one to start off with. That showed some nice things here, but also, again, this is about as good as it's going to get, I feel like. John, you got anything else on this one? You want to hit the next one?
No, but as you can see, and Matt LaFleur said it this week, a lot of times they're close. They're really close, and it's maybe it's the scheme, maybe it's one block, maybe it's one eye of a ball carrier, and we'll continue this throughout this whole 5-play stretch here.
All right, man. Let's hit the next one. Another pistol single back late in the first. I think this is the very next play. Got some jet motion from Reed. Doing a little power here. You've got Newman on a puller, which we'll see from the backside. The pulling he does well. He pulls. He does pull. That's about as good as I can say here. John, what do we got on this one, man?
So yeah, he does pull, but this is very similar. And I think the split flow action, the play before, might have caught the defensive end off guard just a little bit. Well, he sees this one. He reads this one perfectly, because here is the spill option. And now the Packers are going to see a lot of this. Why? Because they've been seeing a lot of it through the last 3 weeks of the season. It's been working for defenses. So the Packers are going to have to anticipate this spill technique, which means the guys inside, the Luke Musgraves of the world, the wide receivers digging out the safeties, as you see on this play, are going to have to get the job done, because A.J. Dillon actually reads this one correctly. Go ahead and let it play.
Yeah, he's you can see him, kind of cutting back against what Musgrave's kind of hitting there, right?
Yep.
So he kind of is cutting back off the hip of Musgrave. Is that right?
Yeah. So in a perfect world, you'd love to see the kick out here by Royce Newman, Musgrave down, and Dontavian Wicks down, and you would have a nice little seam there. But the spill techniques makes him play over the top. I don't hate Musgrave's block. It's okay.
Yeah.
I don't fix blocks. It's okay. And I don't hate the fact that they spilled it out of the lines. A.J. Dillon reads this, and it's so close. This one, again, is just so close to being a good play up onto the second level.
Yeah, and this is one of those too. You pause it at any given spot and go, "Where do you read this?" And like real time, that's tough. But I mean, it is you're looking right there. You can see that. But however, you also see just airborne. Just he kind of, I don't know. Does he get out? I mean, he's cheating a little towards the line there, isn't he, John? Is that? And so when he cuts off, he kind of misses him. Like what's
Hey, that's an Olay move by a good defensive end.
Okay.
Hutchinson. Definitely Royce Newman, stay on your feet. Definitely Royce Newman, keep contact with him. Because you can see if he does and A.J. Dillon doesn't get stuck inside here like this, this play has potential. It's supposed to go right off the heels of Dontavian Wicks, whether it's a kick out or a spill.
Okay.
As I said, Musgrave is in RA position. Wicks is in RA position. All three of those, Musgrave, Wicks, and Newman, just have to finish a little bit better.
Yeah. It's maddening when you get close like that. It's almost worse than the alternative. All right, we'll hit the next one here. This is early in the third, second and 10, 11 personnel, a shotgun, got the short motion here. I mean, this is, my note on this one, John, before you decided that you said you want to do this one, one of my only comments on any run game one, it just says, I like this. That was the bulk of my look at this. Before you want to take a look at this, John, what are we looking at here? We got this little like pin pull sideways pitch here thing, right?
Yeah, this was clearly my favorite play in the game that Matt LaFleur called in the run game. It's creative. It kind of looks like an old school truck crack toss play. You got Christian Watson there. You got Jaden Reed there. They both do a pretty good job. You'd like to see them get a little more wood on their players so that Rasheed Walker doesn't have to boast so much. And Josiah DeGuara, he's the blocking back on this one. He's got the corner. But watch how he passes this off with Rasheed Walker right here. He just passes him off, lets Rasheed Walker collect the inside guy. He collects the outside guy. That's how you get to the second level. Sometimes they don't look pretty. Rasheed Walker's block didn't look pretty. Josiah DeGuara's block doesn't look pretty. But because they passed it off, they were decisive. They got enough wood on our guy. And Aaron Jones can make you right. He's that special type of back. And I love the creativity out of LaFleur. I love the fact that he did it out of a motion set to get Josiah out there even faster in front of Rasheed Walker. That declares it faster for Rasheed Walker. And I love the way that Aaron Jones hits this hole. This was the best run in the game, clearly. It was the best scheme that Matt LaFleur had for the Lions. And Aaron Jones and the rest of the guys made it work.
Yeah, and it's also one of those things too that like very clear what they're missing without Jones, right? Because this is the kind of thing you don't really run with the other guys they have. For I think Dillon has been a little bit maligned this season, unfairly maligned. But this is not something that Dillon is good at. This is the kind of thing that is specifically for Jones. To see them using this kind of thing with him gives you a little more hope for the run game once he's healthy in terms of like how you can vary what they've been running, right?
And I wouldn't say you can't run it with A.J. Dillon, but that was a little bit muddy. It wasn't to perfect. And Aaron Jones, being a great ball carrier, is the kind that can make offensive linemen and blocking backs even better. So that's why it worked for him, and that's why it worked for the Packers on this play.
All right, John, we've reached the highs. Let's get back into the lows, man. We got goal line, 3 down the little red zone here, 9 minutes left in the third, 12 personnel. This is one of those, and this is interesting. I'm glad you picked this one. This is also one I had flagged as well for the reason of, one of the things about Dillon I know has been when he was drafted even is you get a big guy, you get him going downhill. This is where you want to use him. To me, this is a perfect example of why you can't just run a big man downhill, hope to get anything because you obviously depend on the offensive line. So John, what'd you see on this one?
So this is a duo play, and this is all double teams on the front working to the second level. And believe it or not, it's not blocked terribly for a goal line play. I actually think this is blocked actually pretty decent. And A.J. Dillon here needs to read this inside out, starting with the A gap. The A gap's closed, the B gap's closed, the C gap. The C gap will be somewhat closed with Christian Watson on his guy. A.J. Dillon at the 2-yard line makes a decision not to run at a cornerback, not to run in the C gap where there's just a little bit of color on the inside of Christian Watson. He chooses not to use his size on this play and try and squeeze through half a man that Christian Watson's blocking, or bouncing it even outside one more gap and taking on a corner. He chooses to go inside. So this is one, as I said, A.J. Dillon made the right read on the first two plays. This is one where I think A.J. Dillon predetermined where he was going with this football, because if he had this play over, I believe he would take it just inside Christian Watson, use his power, and combine into the end zone, or take a corner one-on-one at the 2-yard line to see who's the best man. Best man wins on this play.
Yeah, because I'm watching his head, because my notes on this, the thing I had was Walker not able to shed, I think, and then was it tough block for Kraft. Seems like he could do a little better there, right, as far as like trying to get to the inside, but it's tough because you got to kind of arc in on, I think that's Hutchinson, if I'm not mistaken. So you got to arc in and get there. There's not a ton of movement there, but you're right. I'm looking at his head in terms of where he's looking, and there's never even a thought of looking over there. There's no reading there. That line's always just straight ahead, right? Like he's reading there and then he's bouncing there if that's not there from the looks of things, right?
This is play side duo. He's got A gap to B gap to C gap to D gap, and you got to make these in a split second. But this is what a running back's job is. They're to see and react. And this is one where he sees color. He feels a little too close for that color. But I've seen A.J. Dillon make jump cuts 100 times. This is one he can clearly cut this one right outside into the C gap, right into the D gap, find himself 250 pounds against a little guy at the 2-yard line. I would take my chances with that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. It's a good point. Got anything else on this, John? You want to hit the last one?
No, other than it just goes to show you one person, right? It can be the ball carrier. It can be somebody in the blocking scheme. And sometimes it can be the play call. But let's check out this last one, because this last one, I loved the play call on this one.
Yeah, we talked about this a little ahead of time. This is the 2-point conversion. So they're going go option here. You got shotgun pistol, kind of offset. Jones steps up. I mean, Love makes the right read there, right? I mean, he's looking. You've got a guy crashing down. You've got a man in conflict. He takes the inside. Guy arcs outside. Right read. What'd you see on this one, John?
Man, this is so perfectly designed. You got 3 for 3 on the right side of the ball, and you have leverage on those 3. And the defensive end, as you'll see at the snap of the ball, he even gives you the play. He gives you. And that guy, the outside linebacker right there, takes Aaron Jones. And as you see the defensive end dip inside Zach Tom, you have 1 for 2 on ball carriers. This should walk in for a touchdown. Unfortunately, when Zach Tom feels the slant by the defensive end, he chooses not to bump him as hard as he would normally bump him. He just gives hand presence. And because of that, it just leaves that little gray area for the defensive end to react against John Runyon Jr. and play over the top. John Runyon Jr. can make this thing good by capturing that outside shoulder. Zach Tom can make this thing good by not rushing to the second level. But either way, this was a perfectly schemed play, and it misses by inches because of some details that the offensive line need to work out.
So that's from Tom, just to be clear. From Tom, that's a crack move up. Like he still needs to get there, but you just need more than a passing hand on the chest, basically, to kind of bump him inside. And then that allows Runyon, I guess, to get outside, get the outside shoulder a little better, right? I mean, those two things happen, and this is like there's no dirty jersey for Love on this play.
Yeah,
walks in.
Pre-snap technique. They're playing that defensive end. They're doubling that defensive end. But that defensive end declares who's going to be the traveling man to the second level, and he declares it for the Packers at the snap of the ball. This should be easy. Zach Tom, that's declared for you. You don't need to rush to the second level. You can take your time and really get a good bump on him. And John Runyon, you can really explode out of your stance and capture that outside shoulder because he gives it to you. Unfortunately, it's a combination of those two details that does not let Jordan Love walk into the end zone for the 2-point conversion.
Yeah, and this is a larger question, John. I know we're getting ready to wrap up here, but these I mean, a lot of this stuff, and you look at this one here, like that's relatively tiny details, right? I mean, that's just like that's digging into the minutia of like what you're supposed to do on these plays. Is this something in season? We have the Monday night games, you have the long layoff from Thursday, then you've got the bye week. Is this stuff that these guys, I mean, they're going to be drilling this. Is this something that, based on what you've seen, you believe they can improve on as the season goes on? I see you smiling. I feel like I know what your answer is.
Dusty, this is Zach Tom's second year in the NFL, his first year as a starter. This is Rasheed Walker's first year as a starter. This is Royce Newman's third year, I believe, but here starting out there. This line is incredibly young. This line has all kinds of room for growth. You make leaps and bounds early on in your career. So these are all very fixable things. Some of it's about the scheme. There was an option play earlier in the game that I did not love. And I couldn't even figure, we chose not to do that play. Could not figure out what they were trying to do on that play, aside from put Aaron Jones in harm's way. But some of these, they're one little sliver off. They're one little detail off. And on every single one of these, I showed you how that play, that 3-yard gain, that 2-yard gain, that no gain could have turned into a walk-in touchdown or an explosive game.
Yeah. Good stuff, John. Appreciate you, man. At least I think that, I don't know, that gives me some hope for the rest of the season. Hopefully gives everyone else a little bit of optimism. I am optimistic by nature. It's good when someone else shares a little bit of that optimism. So appreciate it as always, John. You got anything else to add before we get out of here?
Well, as you talk about hope, that's all we got right now, Dusty. All we have is hope and another 6 days to wallow on this Lions loss before hopefully we can turn the table in Vegas.
I'm already past it, man. I'm already past it. John, appreciate you, man. We'll hit you next week.
Take care.